let's sort of move on to the sort of the structure. So developmental circling has a certain structure that somewhat distinct from traditional circles, and each piece has a function, and there's essentially 4 stages to it. And this is my understanding, and if you have anything to add, I'll hand it to you as well, of course. But essentially, we are more aware of the time, perhaps, and this is perhaps what I do well, is I'm very, very focused on best use of time, and I literally keep a timer, and I'll tell you, okay, you got 2 minutes to check in. After 2 minutes, the timer goes off, and I don't silence it. Well, I tell them, listen, it's a guideline. Do what you want. I'm not going to hold too tight a container, but I want to make sure they hear that timer when it goes off. All right, so that's how I hold the container. So typically, lately we've been beginning groups with T group. So I don't know if you're all familiar with T group, but T group, the practice of T group is to simply speak only from the present moment. So in T group, you're not really allowed to share a story, or if you share a story, you can do so under a very, very brief heading. So you can say, like, headline, and you draw a little square in the air. My wife left me this morning and I'm suicidal. All right. So my wife left me this morning, that's story. So you want to avoid doing that in T group, but very brief context can be interesting. And you're purely in the present moment, what's arising for you in relationship to other people from a feeling perspective. And we have found this extremely valuable in starting a circle, because it kind of drops people into present moment very, very fast. And the interesting thing, in my experience, that's, some people love it, some people hate it. People tend to polarize around T group. It's quite interesting, right? But regardless of whether they love it or hate it, it's forcing them into present moment awareness. And there's, once you get it, it tends to be kind of blissful, because you're not thinking about anything. You're just being, right? So we like to start with that, and typically we go 5 minutes, 7 minutes, whatever, and then I'll stop and say, okay, good, we're here, we're growth, we're landed. So that's first step. Typically, we don't always do it, but that's typically what we do. Then we do what I call a 2-minute presencing check-in. So 2-minute presencing check-in is what's standing in the way of you being fully present in this moment. And that's when you say, okay, my wife left me, my daughter hates me, blah, blah, blah. All right. And the goal there is not to go into a long story. The goal is just to speak what you need, what you want people to know, so that you can actually show up. Okay. So it's an attempt to clear the, whatever distress you're coming in. It doesn't have to be fully successful, but it's an attempt, and it's useful. All right. And, short. So that would be stage 2. And stage 3 is what I call, it's an aliveness round. So stage 3 is essentially we negotiate the next stage. We negotiate what's going to happen in the bulk of the meeting, which is basically a kind of, I basically like to do birthday circles. I like to do short birthday circles. I like to do, sometimes we go more organic. I mean, in our men's group, we tend to go more organic because we've been at it a long time. With beginners, you're going to want to have more structure around what's going on. Okay, like, Harry, you're going to get a 15-minute birthday circle. And you set the timer, all right? But once the group is strong, you can just basically go more organic. So, but anyway, stage 3 is essentially what's alive. So I would like some time. I have attention on Mary tonight. I want Mary to talk. Something is arising in me that's related to blah, blah, and I'm feeling it. I don't really know that I want to do anything about it, but I wanted to share that. All right, so this is you're essentially negotiating who's going to get the attention for the evening, and if you want a little attention for yourself in the moment, you declare it. This is very important. All right, then we go into the bulk of the meeting, ideally, which is essentially either birthday circles or just straight up organic circles. And it's very important as well that you do periodic presence checks. So I will frequently call, I'll do another presencing round. Okay, guys, let everyone speak into this space. I want everyone to say something, what's going on for you right now. So just, to interrupt the process long enough to, to get into present moments. And often, we find, and this happened, this happened yesterday, David, because, Antonis and I were at each other's throats kind of thing. And, people were being affected by that. And, when I called the presencing round, and as we heard, well, as I in particular heard sort of the impact of how I was being, I was like, oh, got it. Let's try something different here. And this is particularly, when things start to get hot, it's it's particularly important to do, to get into a presencing round. Okay, so then, ideally that's the bulk of the meeting. And the final step is actually checkout. And typically this is the most powerful part of the meeting, often. For some reason, I don't know why, but typically it's the most powerful part of the meeting because, again, everybody speaks. I don't time it. I don't time it. I let people go on. Because the idea here is, first of all, you give what you learned, what you experienced in the meeting, and you give your impacts, your takeaways as well. So what I learned about myself is, and this is how I'm feeling about so-and-so, and I understood something profound about them, and I cleared up a lot of my emotional charge around this person, right? And then that's the meeting. And typically, this tends to be very powerful.